Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we are here today to once again talk state of the game for Titanfall 2 multiplayer. This, of course, is a discussion in regards to the recent Livefire patch, which also dropped some new content, including the new Livefire mode. This is also my perspective as someone who primarily plays on the Xbox One. I've talked to a few PC people, so I'll be throwing in some of their information as it regards to the discussion here and there, but primarily, I play Xbox One. This is my experience with the changes that were made in the Livefire patch. Now let's actually start by talking about the content portion of Livefire. Obviously the Livefire game mode, as well as the inclusion of custom mixtape matchmaking and also weekly events. They're small, but they're doing weekly game modes. This week is Skirmish. We had Livefire, of course, for the first one. They're doing double XP for all those modes. I like these ideas. I like what's going on with that, but let's actually talk a little bit more about Livefire. Now, I give you guys my full Livefire first impressions already. It's a mode that I genuinely like. I feel that it's a very strong competitive mode. But here's the thing that I've learned over time. It also seems to be the only competitive, straightforward, competitive, objective-based mode in Titanfall 2 that you can actually play comfortably and for fun in a public play environment. Obviously, your personal skill level comes into play here, but if I get a group of friends and I play Livefire, genuinely, we have some pretty close matches. There's a lot of people playing Livefire who know what they're doing, who enjoy the mode, and the matches are usually pretty close. They're down to the wire. Even if the matches themselves aren't down to wire, there's a lot that can happen within just one round that makes the matches feel enjoyable time and time again, regardless of the outcome. That's not the case with Amped Hardpoint and CTF. These are modes that are just one-sided if they're gonna be one-sided. If you have really good players on your team, you're gonna steamroll an Amped Hardpoint again and again and again. It rarely matchmakes you against another team, especially considering how low the population is inside of both those game modes. So that's a rare thing to have in a more competitive focused mode, and Livefire does it really well. I think it just comes down to its core design, the lack of respawns, and of course the maps and the size of the maps themselves. So all in all, I'm digging Livefire. I like that it exists. I think it's a lot of fun. And if Respawn can put together a mode like this that also has Titans in it down the line, that could be the mode that replaces Attrition and Bounty Hunt. You know, Bounty Hunt was supposed to be that mode, but it doesn't really seem to hold the masses' attention as much as Attrition does. So maybe, just maybe, they'll make a mode like that that has Pilots and Titans at some point down the line. Livefire is really a winner. I'm starting to love Meadows a little bit more as well. You know, we're not going to get married. I'm engaged to Stax. That's how much I love Stax. As a flag runner, Stax has given me some amazing moments running the flag that Meadows simply can't compete with. And there's still elements of Meadows that frustrate me from a design perspective, like the placement of certain rooftops. But, you know, we're going out to dinner, casual relationship. I'm not flipping the bill or anything, but hey, maybe a month from now, we'll be going steady. Let's talk a bit more about mixtape matchmaking. So, pretty much the whole overhaul. They completely, revamped the way that we look at the matchmaking system. It's not anything drastic, but there's enough going on within the new system that it does seem to have had somewhat of an effect in repopulating game modes that were otherwise dead. Now, I think it's harder to see, at least in my region on Xbox One, because for the most part, the only modes that weren't played were CTF and Amped Hardpoint, and they still seem to be not really played, again, for good reason. So I can't really notice the difference from my perspective, but I have talked to people who play on PC where the community is much smaller, and almost all of them have told me it has made a difference. It has repopulated modes like Bounty Hunt that simply weren't being played before, and that's a good thing. It's interesting because I didn't really expect Mixtape to do as much as it has done for the smaller communities. It still doesn't force anyone to play modes they don't want to play. I was kind of expecting Respawn to just say, hey, let's just group these modes together. You have to rotate across these 3 game modes. That's really the only way to actually confine your community to all of the modes, to have all the modes be populated. They're really just relying on players to actively click on all of the modes in their filter, and it seems that most people, at least on the PC, are doing that. So the question I really have for you guys here is what it's like in your region on your platform. If you play on PC, Xbox One, or PlayStation 4, it doesn't matter. What region do you live in? And has mixtape matchmaking revitalized some of the less popular modes? That's all I want to know. I can't know what it's like in Australia. I can't know what it's like in Belgium for mixtape matchmaking. Has it affected you? Has it benefited you? Please share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me again reiterate how much I like the idea of weekly featured modes. So again, Skirmish was featured this week. Maybe next week we'll have Free-for-All or Titan versus Titans. This is something that Respawn mentioned a long time ago that I was very excited about. This is the best way to just push modes into rotation and also to get people more interested in modes that, again, were maybe not as well populated. I would love to see Bounty Hunt next week. Maybe more people giving Bounty Hunt a go, especially people who maybe just picked the game up during some of these sales we've had. It's a great feature, and throwing double XP into the mix gives people a lot of incentive to play it each and every week. All in all, I like what they've done with mixtape matchmaking. Now, there is one issue with the Livefire game mode itself, and I hope Respawn corrects this very soon. It is unavailable in the private match beta. So Respawn has taken their best competitive mode thus far, in my opinion, and then completely locked it away from the competitive community. There's no way to play it in private match, which means they can't put together scrims, they can't put together tournaments, team versus team stuff, they can't even play private match game battles. Just seems completely unnecessary, and as many people in the competitive community will probably attest, it continues to Respawn's sort of anti-competitive mindset, which I don't understand. You can have the best of both worlds here. We can all enjoy our casual public play environment, and we could still have, the tool set at least, the global leaderboards, Livefire and private matches, we still have the tools to let people who enjoy the game in a competitive setting enjoy the game in a competitive setting. I completely disagree with people calling out tryhards and sweaty this and sweaty that. Let people play the game they want to play the game. If that's how someone has fun, who are you to tell them otherwise? You can't have, you just can't go both ways on that. It's hypocrisy. You want to enjoy your game in a more casual public play setting, so why should someone be restricted from enjoying the game to its full potential in a private match in a more competitive setting? The best of both worlds should be able to exist side by side, and the player base, the number of people in the community should not have any effect on this. Just my brief thoughts. I'll probably talk more on that in a future video. Let's move forward and talk a little bit about balance. Obviously, this was a big part of this update. Unfortunately, most of the balance changes didn't really do much. Now, let me say, all in all, I've been pretty happy with the balance in the game for the last month now. Even before Livefire, I wasn't too caught up in being frustrated with the Hemlock, but I know a lot of other people were frustrated with these things. I know a lot of other people had a lot to say about these things. So, have the changes done anything? Again, from my perspective, yes and no. Tone is still Tone. Tone is still fundamentally a very, very strong Titan, if not the strongest Titan in the game, right alongside of Ion. They are two Titans that do indeed need modification. Now, I'm not saying that they should be blasted into nerf oblivion, and I don't think that's even possible with Tone, but there are elements of these Titans that are bringing down the potential of other Titans. Tone, obviously, just all in all, is way too powerful when it comes to damage output. And when you get on a roll with Tone, the ability to stack damage out and damage on damage with those cores is just absurd. I would love to see something done with Tone's ability to make players sacrifice more, to make them focus more on the kits that they take out, to make the kits be more about what you can and can't do with Tone, rather than her just being this Swiss Army knife of just absolute God mode all the time. Even when you do have a strong counter to shut down, say, her particle wall with a Ronin, she's still doing DPS and damage all throughout, and the best Tones will just keep laying on the fire because they know that Ronin's coming for them. And you know what, most of the time, they'll get the damage before the Ronin can even close the distance, or before someone else comes into play. Just too many strengths to her still. Something needs to be done to just bring her overall potential down a notch, and I still think she'd be really powerful at that point. She needs a layer of skill, a layer of challenge and difficulty, again, a layer of sacrifice. Now, the same can be said for Ion in some ways. Ion is obviously a more complex Titan, but once you realize that all you need to do is poke people with the laser again and again, she becomes a better sniper than North Star. And this is the trend with a lot of the game's balancing issues right now. For the most part, Ion's laser shot is bringing down the value of North Star as a sniper. Why would you want to snipe with North Star? I don't care how many shots you can fire with that railgun. I can fire close to as many with my laser shot if I keep charging it up. And I have no damage drop off, and I have no bullet drop, and I have no accuracy drop off. It fires instantly. I can hit crit spots again and again and again. Ion is a better sniper than North Star. Ion is basically carrying a more advanced sniper rifle in shoulder-mounted form, while North Star's over there with like ancient tech in the form of a plasma railgun. So I know she's sort of like hidden meta. People talk about that, and it's so true. She's super powerful. She is one of my most played and most powerful Titans in terms of kills and the overall percentage of success I have with her, because she's so potent with that laser shot. And anyone who plays her will say, hey, just poke, poke, poke. It's so true. It's just too true. She's basically a laser shot, and that's it. She's she needs to be brought down a little bit there, again, to bring characters like North Star up into the meta a bit more. Now, the same can be said with the Devotion issue going on here. Obviously, the Devotion saw modifications, none of which brought down its overall capabilities. once again, I'm not really frustrated with any of these things. They don't irritate me, they don't annoy me on a match-to-match basis, but I don't like knowing that the devotion means the DMR is useless, or that this weapon is useless. Like, why would you run a DMR when you have a fully automatic light machine gun that has just as much damage and accuracy potential? You just hold down the trigger, you spray, and even if you catch someone with 2 or 3 bullets at a great distance, you'll get a kill. Why would I ever use a semi-automatic rifle when I have that? It pushes a lot of other weapons out of the meta, and that's what I don't like about the imbalance issues here. It's not always about which weapon pisses you off the most, it's about which weapon or which titans or which, elements are actually making other weapons not really useful, or they're just making them not the best choice. Why would anyone ever pick the DMR when they have the devotion? And that's just a rough example, but you get what I'm getting at here. It's the same that could be said for, things like the Hemlock. For a while, it was like, why would I even want a sniper rifle when the Hemlock has the same range, so on and so forth. So these are all difficulties that I think the game is still generally facing, but all in all, I've been really enjoying the overall balance of the game. It hasn't been too frustrating for me at my skill level. I've been able to just get into my zone with my car, my hipfire SMGs, and just really have a lot of fun. The interesting thing about playing on the Xbox One, I imagine this is something with the PlayStation 4 as well, is there are still just certain weapons that aren't considered overpowered by anyone, but yet they are used all the time. The R2 is a consistent user on the battlefield. I always see the R2. People are always just making use of that AR potential in the game and just spraying you down, just LDSing, using the HCOG, the Ranger, and just done. Like, the R2 is all over the place. The R97... SMGs, these are things that you very rarely see because, again, they don't really gain the same benefit, the same strength from ADSing with the aim assist that many of these assault rifles do. So that's always the weird thing, right, is the R97 is pretty much a god-tier SMG, yet it is rarely used. One of the future things I'd like to do for the game is to sit down over a weekend and record all of the weapons I see in a play session just to see what the numbers are like. So if I play 5 times over the weekend, each and every match, I want to write down the weapons that I see and see which ones come out on top. I think that'd be an interesting experiment to see which weapons are seemingly being used the most, at least in my average play experience. Now, actually moving on to one more piece of content, we should talk about the Coliseum update. I haven't really mentioned that. The cool thing about Coliseum isn't just the addition of pillars or columns or whatever the hell you want to call that new map. Whatever Respawn is deciding it is, I think they're a little bit confused as well. It's the fact that they seem to be rotating on a weekly basis the weapons and the abilities you get inside of the Coliseum. So today, for example, we've got the softball, the Mozambique, the Gravity Star, and the grappling hook. I like the idea of this. Rotating these things out gives me a reason to jump into the Coliseum. It's a mode that I already enjoy. 1v1 mobility stuff in Titanfall 2 is stupid fun, and knowing that I'm going to get something a little bit different each and every week, it gives me a reason to boot it up. So I think in a lot of ways they've done the Coliseum a huge favor. They've made it a much more enjoyable, much more diverse, and interesting experience. I'm really happy with those changes. All in all, Livefire, guys, it's been a nice addition. The game still, I think, struggles overall with the balancing of certain weapons. There are plenty of things in the game that are just still deemed completely useless, and there are plenty of things that are sort of must-use if you really want to be top tier and not have to worry so much about your skills. So we'll see where things go from here. I'm still enjoying the game, and I guess that's really what matters at the end of the day. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the recent patch, the recent changes. What do you think about Livefire? How do you feel about the Coliseum changes? Is mixtape matchmaking, once again, has it helped you in your region? Let me know down in the comment section below. Get a big, juicy discussion flowing as always. I'm going to get back to working on that new closer, and I'll see you in the next one.